So hello and what's up? So in this video I'm gonna show you how you can create your own PCB from scratch. So actually you might have seen these videos on YouTube in where people make PCBs from different kind of methods, but actually those methods differ from person to person, and until and unless you try it yourself you don't figure out the best way in which you can do it. So in this video I'm going to show you my way of doing it, and after a couple of failures and hit and trial methods I figured out the only way in which I can make my PCBs in the best way. So let's get started. So I will divide this video into three sections. The first one is designing the PCB. The second one is transferring the toner or toner transferring, or the method is also called heat pressing. And the third one is etching. So this video may be a little bit longer because I'm going to guide you through all of the steps of making a PCB from scratch. So watch the video till the end. So the first one is designing, and there are many of the softwares out there, but I prefer using Autodesk Eagle because that is pretty much easy and you can find the components from the list pretty easily. And one of the turning points of designing the schematics or the board is you have to use the correct footprint of your components, because at the end the components you are selecting in the schematics will end up in your PCB. So you have to make sure to use the correct footprint, size and dimension of the components what you're using in your schematics, so that you're able to place the same components in your board. So I'm going to show you the whole step of building this PCB, and if you feel bored then you can skip that one out, but many people says that I do not show the steps properly, so I'm going to show you the whole steps. So there are a couple of steps in designing the PCB too in Eagle. First of all, you have to design the schematics properly, and the second one is you can use the function called generate board from schematic, and after generating the board you have to resize the board according to your requirements and then place the components. And placing the components is the main thing, guys, and you have to place the components in organized way so that the tracing doesn't gives you heart attack. I also tried a couple of different things in the board, and after a couple of trial and error I figured out the best way of arranging the components in the PCB. And I used the auto router at the first, but you don't know, you cannot trust the auto router because it does various silly things which you can ignore if you manually route the PCB. And at the end I also did some manual routing and also some VRs so that I can place my copper wires to connect to terminals which are not able to connect at the opposite side. So basically I am designing a one layer PCB. If you design a two layer, then it will be a little bit pain to transfer the toner into your two layer copper PCB, because that requires a pretty much bit of kind of alignment to actually make the thing working. Let's go to the build. And as you can see, couple of different things in here, I would like to tell you about two things which are the turning points. The first one is try to ignore those 90-degree traces and 90-degree routes, because if you don't want to be hated in the comment section, then you must ignore those 90-degree traces. And the second one is try to keep as much as ground potential as possible. As you can see right here, I have created a total ground plate because that actually pretty much helps when you are soldering components. But try to keep as much ground as you can in your PCB. I will make a video how to design PCBs using Eagle in some other videos, but that is topic for another video, so I will make a video in coming days. So after designing the PCB, you can print the whole thing up in your paper to actually see whether the components fit or not. As I have mentioned at the very beginning of this video, that you have to use the correct footprints of the components you are using in your design. So for me, every components worked out to be pretty well and fits in there pretty well, so that is not a pain in my. But if you have errors in fitting components, then you have to replace the components in your schematic section, and then also adjust a little bit, maybe read out it. That's where our first step is completed. Now comes the second step, and that is the toner transfer. And by this time you should have your copper board cut to your proper shape, and the shape of requirements and all, and then you have to clean it off. Now this is one of those main steps, guys, because this doesn't seem to be a very big step, but it is, because I felt a couple of times because I was not cleaning the PCB properly. So at the end, for cleaning, I use some steel wool to scrub the surface away. As you can see, it shines pretty nicely now. And also use some thinner. You can use acetone or isopropyl alcohol at the end to clean the surface off properly, because the toner doesn't stick properly if you don't clean the surface properly. So this is one of those turning steps, main steps as well, hot steps. So after cleaning the board, you have to laser print out your PCB. Now you can use any of those glossy papers from kind of photo papers and all, but a paper from magazine works out to be pretty well for me. And I'm also searching internet for what kind of paper people use to print the PCBs, and I have seen that the magazine papers works out to be the best. So they can take any of those glossy papers from your old magazines and all, and try to collect paper which are pretty thin. Then it will be easy for you to later remove it from your PCB when the toner is transferred. So basically, as you can see right here, I have my printout ready in the glossy paper, so I have to just face down it into the copper board and then tape it down. You can tape it or don't tape it, that is all your choice. You may tape it, don't tape it, but I recommend taping it because it doesn't slides away from the main board. It destroys the alignment, right? But when you are pressing the iron for the first time, it will stick to the surface anyway. So that's the little time when you are placing your board and placing your iron. So in that time it may destroy, so I just taped it down to be safe. So after doing that, you have to keep your iron ready and set it to the maximum heat and apply some manly force to put the whole thing together. And as soon as the paper sticks there properly, you have to iron it to the maximum pressure you can give to your iron. And 10 to 15 minutes worked out to be pretty well for me. Anything less or more will result in improper toner transfer or burned out traces, so try to ignore that. 10 to 15 minutes just works out to be pretty well for everyone, I guess. And it also depends upon the paper you are using. If it is less thick, then maybe 5 to 10 minutes will be good. After applying the pressure for about 15 minutes, I removed it and placed it under my monster transformer, and that is to provide it that pressure it needs. You will need anything weighty to actually put in your board to keep it under pressure. That's what happens, right? If you keep someone in pressure, then he or she will do the work properly. That's pretty deep coming out from me, so whatever. I again put the whole thing for about 20 to 25 minutes, and this is the right time to have one of those heaters in your hand, because you need to boil some water to put your copper board in there. So I boiled some water and then remove the plate from the pressure and then put the thing in the boiling water, and you have to also keep it in there for about another 25-30 minutes. And after it's over, you can see, try to peel it properly, and you will see the toner is transferred. That's what we are looking for, right? After the toner is transferred, I use a toothbrush to clean the surface off, because there may be a chance that most of the papers are still sticking to your board, and that's kind of annoying. And for that I need pesky 5 tries to actually figure out how to remove the whole thing over it, because the paper also gets stuck onto your surface. So after removing the paper, you're pretty good to go. But don't cry, there are small breaks and bridges to your toner transfer. For the breaks, I used a Sharpie or any alcohol based markers actually works, and you have to scribble the surfaces where your toner is not transferred. And for the bridges, this is the correct time to remove them using a sharp knife maybe, or screwdriver, or anything works well. You just have to remove the extra toner which is just creating those bridges. After all those things, you can see we are good to go to put in the etching, and this is the third step, guys. And for this you need a plastic container with some water, and iron 3 chloride, ferric chloride, or FeCl3, anything. All the things are actually same, the names are kind of different. So this etching solution, you actually get those ferric chlorides as chunks, as salts. You get them as powder, so you have to put some of those powder in your bowl to actually make the etching solution. And according to the concentration, guys, the time also will depend how much time you need to actually etch the whole thing up. For me, it took about 50 minutes to totally etch, and at the internet I found that people are using 30 minutes of etching time and still they are getting proper etching out of it. I don't know why. Maybe I have put less concentration of ferric chloride into my water. So that's also depends upon you how much ferric chloride you put in your water to actually etch. And as you can see, you may shake the whole thing up, or scrub it with anything, sponge or toothbrush, to actually help the etching process to happen properly. After 50 minutes, it's turned out to be pretty well, I guess. And I've also removed it a pretty bit earlier, and you can see there's little bit copper still in there, and you don't want that. You need all of those things to clean up, so I give it extra time to remove the whole thing up, and it's turned out to be pretty well, I guess. So after you remove it from the etching solution, you have to clean the whole thing properly, guys, because there may be a chance that still some of those etching solution are in there, and it keeps the board etching. So that's pretty much scary indeed, because you need to clean the whole thing properly, otherwise you will end up vanishing all of your copper traces out of it by slow etching of the ferric chloride if you don't clean it properly. For cleaning, I recommend using some basic solutions at first. Some baking soda works out to be pretty well, and after that try some strong soap to clean the surface up. Try to rinse it with water for a couple of times and you will be good to go. For the etching solution, guys, this is the very important step, and if you don't want to go to jail, listen to this step properly. For the solution guys, it is harmful for you and the fishes. Try not to forget about the fishes. So you cannot throw it in your sink or anywhere else. You have to dilute it first. It is a pretty strong acid, as you can see. It is metal, so it's pretty strong acid. And as you can see, I put a little bit hand washing soap in there, and it turns it into So I figured out the best way of diluting it with baking soda, and after dilution you will be able to see that nothing actually happens. You can also test with that soap again whether it turns it into After dilution you can throw it anywhere, but still keep in mind that don't go to jail. Why you went to jail? Because I was etching PCBs. What the whatever. So after the etching is done, you are pretty much completed guys, and now you have to clean the extra toner off from the surface. For doing it, I first used some of my manly force and scrubbed it with toothbrush, because I saw that still a little bit of paper is stuck in there and I do not have direct access to the toner. And as soon as you get the direct access to the toner, you can use some acetone or thinner or isopropyl alcohol to clean the surface off. And now we can see a nice PCB built from the scratch. Isn't that cool? And after etching the whole thing, I do not have a solder masking compound yet. You can also solder mask it with UV curable resin and then curing it under UV light, and that actually recommended because the copper undergoes oxidation, which actually turns the whole plate into I tried some confirmatory coatings like using nail varnish and all to cover the whole surface of that it doesn't oxidize. And after all those things, you have to drill holes into your PCB to fit the components. And for that, I used a 0.8mm drill and 0.6mm drill to drill the holes. And that's kind of a tedious job, so that's all. You made your old PCB for the first time. Congratulations for that. So that's all for today guys. Hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs down for the opposite, and if you haven't subscribed yet, then hit the subscribe button and notification bell icon to get notified about my latest uploads. And current update guys, my upload frequency may be changed from 1 video per week to half video per week. I mean 1 video per 2 weeks, because I'm not getting time to edit my videos because I'm kind of busy, because at one time I have to finish up my projects and on the other I have to edit the videos, so that's kind of a tedious job for me. So maybe I will upload a video per 2 weeks. So that's a little update. If you like my channel a little bit, then you should support me on Patreon to keep the show going. So that's all for today. Hope you have enjoyed. This is Malhar, you are watching Our Syllabus, and I am signing off.